What's up everyone, this is BigPowner. Today I'm going to be doing a build guide for the ice shot build that I'm playing. But first, I'm going to showcase it a little bit. And we got some stuff to pick up real quick. And I would like to point out, I have several slots that are garbage, and I will show them to you. I do have a couple of good items, but I'm like playing with like 3600 HP and like I'm playing with like an asphyxia, which is like basically a one ball orb for a nice one. I'm playing with 10% movement speed boots. I'm playing with a 5 link and a 4 link. I can't even get a second 5 link to roll on my chest. It's ridiculous. Ah! Ah! I was like, no! I am really squishy. But I have massive evade. I'll go ahead and go into it now. I knew I screwed right there. I had double jumped forward onto that. Oh, alright. Anyways, I will go ahead and go over what it is that I've done. The ascendancy tree, first of all, this is pretty standard. If you're just beginning and you haven't done all your ascendancies, the way that I did this is I came to far shot first, then I went to Ricochet, and then I went to endless munitions. You could go to endless munitions first, just depending on how you're, like what gear you have, how you're playing. I would definitely recommend if you can get the Gloomfang, which I think I paid like 18 chaos for it. Um, when when I bought mine, but that was like day 1, day 2. Okay, so they're 25 to 30. There's a ton of them for 30 chaos. So 30 chaos, that's not that expensive for an end game piece of gear. The Snow Forge that I have on here, that's just because I can't afford the 2 golden oils to put on the Vengeant Cascade, but once you can afford Vengeant Cascade, I would recommend putting Vengeant Cascade on it. If you don't know the skill, I believe it adds damage, but the main thing is that it causes all of your arrows to return after they've finished doing all of the stuff that they're going to do. Something super cheap. You can go with a crafted one, but I winded up going with this, and the reason why is because I'm stacking freeze chance, and the stats on this are actually really nice. 20% gain 20% physical damage as extra cold damage, which is really nice also. So for a 1 Vol Orb item, this was a really cheap thing for me to put in one of my slots, because I do have several slots like this is really bad. My boots, they're really bad rolls, but the fact that they have the siege, the ballista totem, makes them into a pseudo 5 link for me, which is kind of needed because I only have a 4 link and, well, 4 link in the boots. I only have 4 links and 1 5 link, and I'm at probably a couple thousand fusings trying to 6 link rotating between my armor and my bow. Now I'm no longer trying to roll my bow, because if I roll away my 5 link, I've only seen a 5 link one time in 2000 2000 plus fusings. So that is rough. Crafted crafted helm. It is a cheap thing to do. Eventually I will be making mine better, but this, with my luck, this was what I was going to keep. What I did here to make this cheaper, instead of buying a really nice helm with a helm enchantment, I went ahead and bought a helm base that already had a ice shot enchantment on it, which honestly any of them are good. That's the nice thing about the ice shot. The increased area of effect is nice because it's going to give you more overlapping. The increased angle is the most useful in something that's only shooting forward, like a Pierce build, because then it's going to cause it to hit more stuff on the sides. Um, but with the chain, since it goes into them and then hits them at different angles, it winds up going around everywhere. Anyways, so the other one obviously is the damage. That'll probably be the most expensive, but honestly, the ice shot enchantments, none of them were expensive. I only paid 10 chaos for this on a best type base. So if you are ready to craft, I would suggest doing that. That craft is really simple. You're basically just going to use a frigid fossil and a chaotic, primitive chaotic resonator, and just spam it till you get nice stats. For the chest, there's two really good options for the chest. I went with the Perfect Form Zodiac, and the reason why I went with this over the Hyries Ire is because damage is not really going to be an issue with this build once you get it finished. As you could see how I was laying waste to everything, and this is with a 5 link, and only 2 chains, no other modifiers. For me, I really want the the defensive stats, and if you see how much this will increase my, I'm at 6,000, and this puts me up to almost 15,000 because of the overcapped cold resistance. Obviously there's also 1,300 right there, but that is not giving me 9,000 evasion. So yeah, it is a big thing, and I'm not even overcapped that much. I'm overcapped 31%, which is good, but I would like to get that higher, obviously, as my gear gets better. The Hyries Ire, though, is still a really good choice. It has a higher base, really late game, or once bases are easier to get and you have more currency to try to craft. You could go for a crafted chest. That's what I will probably do later in the season once the best type bases are easier to acquire. I will go for the 100% reduced reflected elemental damage with a crit modifier on it, because I want to push this to as close to 100% crit as possible. Um, One of the big issues, the reason why I've kind of taken the build this way, is a lot of the Metamorphosis bosses, and the bosses in general, are just a huge pain. And the thing is by increasing your damage and what you're hitting for, it makes it so that you're able to break the threshold and apply your elemental ailments. What I've been doing is I've basically just been getting in close combat with them, throwing down the ice shot ballistas, and then as they spawn, I just pummel them. And they basically, unless they're immune to freezing, they most of the time are pretty much just frozen solid the entire time until they're dead, which is pretty nice. And since it has the frost shot with chain, you don't even have to move, because when they spawn stuff, it just automatically disperses out and kills that stuff. So that works really well. Expensive ring that I got, I mean, it's not super expensive. It is a more expensive item, but I am going to recommend this. The reason why is it gives you 30% increased elemental damage, 30% increased elemental damage with attack skills, and another 20% increased damage with hits and ailments against per freeze, shock, and ignite on enemies. The thing is this is effectively at max a 120% base increase to your elemental damage, well, up to. And the reason why is because we have chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. Um, we pick it up in a few places where it's giving us both of them. So it's basically going to be like 80% pretty consistently, because you're going to be applying your cold ailments like all the time, because you have the cold damage and you're going to be hitting really hard. And then on top of that, you're going to have the chance to shock and ignite, which is then going to increase your damage even more. Finishing this off, you're going to want to go for the gathering winds. The reason why is you can see how fast I was moving, and it's a combination, and it's not just that. It increases your attack speed, it increases everything. It's like a crit multiplier for all of your actions. That's how you can think about the tailwind. So, and the thing is we're going to be using a lot of skills, because we're dropping ballistas, we're using our dashes, we're shooting our bow, all of that good stuff. It's going to stack a lot. So that is definitely something that you are going to want to go for. If you are worried about completing your last trial, you could get this first. I went ahead and got all three of these first, because I wanted damage early so that I could do harder content without gear, or with less gear I could do harder content. Comment on these boots. So the best in slot boots, we're gonna be just crafting boots. We're gonna have to have places where we pick up our resistances. Oh, that's the other nice thing about the taming, is it gives us a lot of resistances, up to 40% to all elemental resistances. And I'd like to also comment on the quality. I have the quality elemental damage on it, and the reason why is because at 20%, it will give 20% increase of that up to 120%, which is an effective 24% um, increased elemental damage, which that is like another whole stat. So I would recommend that for the taming. The other option, though, is you could also go with the increases resistances, because it does have 40% to all elemental resistances. So that would be an 8% to all elemental resistances. So an effective 24% to total resistances, like 8 to each. So either way, that is a really good choice. On the other ring right now, I've got kind of garbage. I mean, it's mediocre. But commenting on that, the goal for this slot is to go for the new influence, and go for the frostbite. Is it frostbite? The elemental exposure. It's on. Actually, I have one of the bases. It's the yellow one. No, is it the yellow? No, it's the blue. It's the blue influence. I know I got it in here, in one of these somewhere. What's it? I don't know the name. I'm gonna look that up, and I'll continue talking. Anyways, it gives debuffs against cold damage, which obviously we're using full conversion. We attain full conversion in our tree, because the base gem does 60%, and then inside of our tree we are going to be gaining 20% here and 20% here. The other thing that's spooling me up really hard is onslaught. So I go this way, we get 10% on each one of these, 20% on the bottom one, so 40% increase to onslaught, which is pretty big, because that's 20% attack speed and movement speed, which 40% of that is another 8% attack speed and another 8% movement speed. Those are some pretty significant buffs. So I would definitely recommend that. Currently, I am in my flasks using a Gives Me Onslaught flask, um, just simply because I don't have as reliable a way to get Onslaught right now, and I don't have my final slot for my permanent flasks, which my last slot will be a Dying Sun, but right now they're starting at like 6 exalts, and that's just too much to be paying for 2 extra arrows. Um, when I can also gain, something else in those slots, which is going to be giving me more power. So I'd be losing power that I already have, and I'm paying 6 exalts for it. And when you have like garbage items like these gloves, like I mean that's like what a two and a half stat item. Like I still have some really bad pieces of gear, so investing in something like that's not worth it for me. The end game goal for most people is going to be this bow. Um, yeah, and I failed my ice shot corruption, which really hurt. um, Anyways, this is going to be the end game bow for most people. And why do I say for most people? The Arborix Assassin bow is really, really strong for this build. When you switch to the Arborix, you are definitely going to want to be taking point blank. And why is that? Because it synergizes with the Arborix. When it gives you iron reflexes, you gain 30% more damage with hits at close range. Well, you have iron reflexes, which is a big bonus, which gives your total bonus to 60% more damage. That's absolutely huge. Paying attention to when that rotates in is really easy. When you start all of a sudden moving a lot faster, because it gives you 30% movement speed, that is your cue to get in there and deal those massive damage hits. Um, on top of that, obviously, this bow is pretty much stayed under 2.5 exalts unless you're looking at a 6 link one, and then you can probably add 5 or 6 exalts on top of that because that's what the 6 link recipe costs, and that's pretty much how it normally goes, is like 5-6 exalts is what you pay for the linking. However, obviously, right when you get to maps, or you may not have the currency to buy that right away, the Lionized Glare is what I'm going to recommend. It is something that I started with. This is super cheap. It's like 1 chaos or less. Like no one is using it. And why is this an excellent bow? It's super underrated and super underutilized in this league. Um, the reason why it is so good is because it has hits cannot be evaded. Well, this is the first thing. Hits cannot be evaded. So hits cannot be evaded makes it so that when you have less skill points to distribute, it means that you can completely ignore accuracy, which is going to make your overall build that much stronger if you actually ignore accuracy instead of putting points into it. Because obviously if you're using this bow, putting points into accuracy is doing nothing for you. So it basically makes it so with less points your character can be stronger, which is going to help you push faster and further. On top of this, it's got the nice implicit, up to 24% increased elemental damage. Obviously, you can perfect roll that. I don't know why I didn't when I was using it. It's just blessed orbs. Um, Other than that, it also gives us mana, which it's nice actually to have the 100 mana. The reason why is because, like earlier on, you're going to be reserving a lot of mana, and the thing is pummeling out a lot of arrows really fast is going to drain that mana really fast. So that is going to be a pretty nice thing. Most people are going to be like, oh, well, there's mana on it. Like, I don't care about that. But it is actually pretty nice, especially early when you're a little strapped. Um, Going on from there, you can go with the Stygian. The reason why I wound up switching over to the Stygian is because I could get resistances on that, and then I could use a jewel to fill in my resistances. And then also stacking those two things, I'm able to get, like on this one, over 120 base life, which my life is really low, 3440. Oh, it's a little low because my boots are off. 3600 HP. Which that is a goal for me to raise. Like when I upgrade some of these items, I need to get a little bit more HP. Um, and with the rest of my points, I'm heading for the large HP nodes. Um, but obviously, having gear that has bad rolls on it, I'm missing a lot of life that I could have. Um, One of the options is to ignore the asphyxia and get um, a nice crafted quiver. Like if I switch out this one's got a high life roll. It gives me a lot of HP, like 200 HP. And then obviously that's going to increase even more when I get more HP nodes and when I socket in more jewels that are giving me percent HP. Um, all that stuff, all that good stuff. It's going to scale up my HP a lot more. Anyways, on the belt, 1 second. Why is this? So for the ring, the influence that you're going to want to get before I forget to even remind you about that is you are going to want, yeah, I was right, Frostbite. I don't know why I was second guessing myself. So you're going to want to get Frostbite. That's going to be my end goal for this. There is a choice. You could also do the Assassin's Mark, but the Frostbite is going to be really nice because we're doing all cold damage, and you can choose to use an increased critical strikes, which is what I'm using right now. I can change that out later on when I do get a crafted chest with critical strike chance. Um, and there's also other choices. The other option for your necklace is you could go with a Assassin's Mark gloves, or I mean, like you can try to find a corrupted one that gives Assassin's Mark, and then you'd be able to use the taming and the frostbite. But then you'd have to put a +1 curse either on your chest, or you would have to do it as an enchant on your amulet, or pray that you hit a vol for one, which that's not really that realistic. I tried like 20, 30 times to try and get extra arrow on this, and then I just gave up. It's such a small odds to hit something like that. Anyways, the ways I burn my currency, even when I don't have that much and I've got bad pieces of gear, but that's how you wind up with a super crazy build, is by, spending your currency and trying to get something really good. Eventually it works out, like getting a 6 link. So a really cheap option for the belt is Gluttony. The Gluttony leather belt, these are like under an alchemy, like alchemy or less. Like these are super cheap. And the thing is this belt can give you up to 120% flat HP. It also gives you Culling Strike when something is cursed by your Poacher's Mark, which it gives you. It gives you a level 30 Poacher's Mark, which if you're just buying the Gloomfang and then you need a good belt to go along with it, the Gluttony leather belt, the level 30 Poacher's Mark, will completely solve your mana issues, and it will making it so you can reserve more mana, which is another nice thing about it. And then on top of that, the Culling Strike is really nice. The reason why is it culls at 20% of their HP, which is basically making it so that everything is starting off fighting you with 80% HP, which against, stuff like the Metamorphosis bosses and stuff like that, I mean, getting to kill them at 20% HP is a pretty significant thing. So I'm going to say it was really strong and really nice while it lasted, but unfortunately, I needed the resistances really badly. I'm still like 4% under on my resistance for lightning, and I want to overcap more on my cold. But like I said, I've got, some terrible slots as far as gear still. Um, the other way that you can do the double curse, which would be really nice, you could get an Assassin's Mark on one finger, you could do the Frostbite on the other, you could skip the taming. The thing about this is the taming at 2.5 exalts, which is what it's costing, is going to be cheaper than crafting one of those rings. Or at the very least, the same cost. And for a guaranteed slot that's that strong for this build, I'm going to recommend it. If it starts going up to like some place that's like crazy, then you might be better off to do the 2 crafted rings, which are going to be like really, really strong if you are able to do that. The thing is then you're going to have to pick up an extra curse, which you can do through an enchantment on your necklace, but then you're not going to be able to have the Vengeance Cascade. So it's kind of a trade-off. Either one of those choices would be like really strong for an end game build. I am going to be going for the Vengeance Cascade, with one ring being a curse and I'm gonna be keeping the taming. I'm starting to quality it up for elemental damage. It's gonna be sweet, man. Um, so we've covered, I think, pretty much everything. We've done quivers. We've done the bows. You got a cheap option. You got an expensive option. You've got two choices for unique chests, and then you have direction for crafted chests. Kind of whatever your build really needs. Um, the boots, the thing I will say about these is these might not be easy to get. They might be easy to get. To honestly, the Shaper and Elder influences are really easy to get this season. Like I thought it was going to be like super rare, but we have the influences on scarabs, and the thing is the metamorphosis bosses award them. You can put the influence onto maps. You can get them from Blight encounters. You can get there is a lot of ways to get them, and I don't think a lot of people are going for them, so this might be a good option, especially early on if you can pick one of these up cheap with the Ballista Totem. It does a ton of damage using Ice Shot on it, and then you basically have a 5-link Ballista Totem, and like the damage, like comparative, 42,000 display DPS versus 126. So the thing is it's essentially doing more damage with my 3 totems than my actual bow shooting is. So that's a pretty good indicate. Well, it's actually like exactly 126 versus 42.9. 126 what? It's rotating. 3, 30, 42, 126. So it's essentially, I guess it's the same. So it's like doubling your DPS using 2 5-links, which obviously you can't get it past a 5-link doing that way. You'd have to actually use the totem, and then you'd be having socketed the totem, and then there would be 5 more links. So you would need, instead of a 5-link, you need a 6-link to upgrade from the boots, basically. But having it like that basically makes it so that you don't need sorry have it it makes it so that you don't need 2 6-links early, so I think that that is a good option. It's working really well for me. The other thing is the Ballista Totems. Those work pretty well. The nice trade-off between the Ballistas versus the Ice Shot Totems is, which is actually using Ice Shot, um, is that with the ballistas, they do less damage and they don't have the AoE, but they have a much longer range. The thing is these only have a range of 60. So they have to be a lot closer to be able to shoot, and the ballistas, the siege ballistas, do have a longer range. So, but when you're playing with a playstyle where you're getting more damage by being close, that's why I've kind of pretty much just kept the Ice Shot for the more damage for the links. Okay, so I'm going to go over my jewels real quick. So, Intuitive Leap, I'm going to recommend this. It's like 10 chaos. You're going to be able to grab the evasion, elemental resistances, 1 max, cold resistance, 3% evasion. You're going to be able to get 30% crit multiplier. You're going to be able to get increased attack speed, accuracy. You're going to be able to get 10% max life. And I need to fill that in. I don't know why I haven't done that. I'm going to have to pull a point off somewhere else. In the early, you're going to want to come down through here, grab this first, then you're going to want to come up here, grab all of this. These right here are kind of at your own choice. The thing is I kind of like this. It's increased flask effect. I wanted a little bit more mana, a little bit more regeneration, so that I basically am almost at endless shooting without even hitting anything. Obviously, when you're hitting stuff, it's not going to be as big of an issue, but I just found it ran smoother that way. And the bonus to the increased flask effect and the increase to the flask charges gained is something that I found makes the build run smoother. you are definitely going to want to at least get all of these four. These are optional. I'll probably wind up pulling these off to make a push for something else just because it's only damage, um, which is 12%, which what I'm probably going to wind up going for is over here to get this as my last little push. I may wind up switching around a little bit of points to grab Golem's blood, because if I'm already over here, and then I'll probably pick up this extra frenzy charge. I'll fill in my other frenzy charges since I will have all this, so there will be a little bit of changes still coming to this build, but it is working really well as it is. All these nodes we're going to be picking up. I got an extra node there. And I will put it... What was it I was missing? I literally just said it. I was like, why is that not filled in? Oh. So Lionel's fault. This I'm definitely going to recommend once you get some other good gear. The reason why is because the nodes up here are just like crazy good for stacking the critical hit chance, critical hit multiplier. This is kind of like when you can afford it, go for it. Coming down here, this is really important because this gives us everything we need. 8% max life, increased evasion, increased physical damage. Obviously, we have a physical damage weapon, and then all of it's getting converted into cold, so damage, HP, evasion, all good stuff. Coming down here, we've got more penetration. Eventually, I'm probably actually going to drop these nodes, and why is that? Because I'm probably going to be playing with enough penetration debuff that I don't know if it's going to be more damage to have this or to go with something else, because the plus cold penetration the plus penetration is like something crazy. Like at level 6 it's like 40 something percent, which completely gets rid of all of their resistances. Obviously having more penetration does go into a multiplier, so I'm gonna have to play with Path of Building to decide what to do with that, but for now this is working really well. You're definitely going to want to come up across here. The only thing that's going to be shared that's going to be different is this point right here. You saw I'm a little bit under on my resistances. That's the reason why I have the point right there, and I actually probably need that one too, and then I would have perfect resistances. All of this, the only reason why I don't have phase acrobatics is because I am using the perfect form, which obviously it gives me phase acrobatics. It doesn't stack them. If it did, that would be crazy, because I would just put phase acrobatics on my necklace and have it on my chest and have it here, and I'd have 90% chance to dodge spells just from that. So yeah, it doesn't do that. It would be broken if it did. Filling in the HP, we're going to get the cold penetration down here, cold damage, cold penetration. This penetration is better. It also increases the effect of the skill, because the effect of our chill. So if you're going to drop something, you would drop this first before you would drop this, because this gives us 8% and this gives us 6%. So this is the better node. It also gives us more damage. So if you're picking between the two, go for this one. That explains that. Anyways, I think that is pretty much everything. I will link my build as it is now. I've been spending a lot of time in Path of Building, so there will be some changes. I will comment when I do completely get finished. I'm trying to play while also trying to min-max the build, and also come up with, things that will help other players. This is a lot harder season, so you do need a really good build to be able to do all content. That's the reason why I chose the ice shot, because I knew it was something that would be able to kill bosses. I knew it was something that would clear maps like crazy. I knew it would destroy Blight encounters. I knew it would destroy Legion encounters. So that's why I went ice shot. Now it just needs some fine tuning with all of the changes, additions, and stuff that's been added, removed. And I need a 6-link. I would like 2, but I will be happy with 1. Give me a 6-link, please. Anyways, I hope that this build guide helps you guys. One thing I will touch, the order that I would buy things buy Lionized Glare first because it's like 1 chaos. You can get the Gluttony Belt, then get your Gloomfang. Then I would say go for a chest, whether you're going to go for the perfect form or you're going to go for the high res ire. Get that. Then I would say go for the taming. That would be the order that I would go in. Or you could get the taming before your chest if you have something decent, or if you've picked up, like, you could also do a 6-link chest guaranteed through divination cards, which would be a cheap way to get a 6th link, which would actually put your damage above mine relatively easily because you'd have a 6th link and I'm using a 5. So, but the point is this build is already crushing stuff. So, yeah. Um, and also, like, you might be like, the Lionized Fall would be like the last of the stuff that I'm showing you that I would go for, and the crafted stuff I would go for even after that. The thing is, and there's one more jewel that you could also go for, which is the Lethal Pride, which you could socket up here. You'd hit quite a few nodes, which the only reason to go for the Lethal Pride is, well, not the only reason, but a good reason to go for Lethal Pride as an option, a later option, because I think those are like 4 or 5 exalts, is because we do get Iron Reflexes, which adds our strength bonuses to our damage, which the Lethal Pride adds all of the small nodes, give us extra strength, and then you can also get some nice modifiers on your major nodes. So that would also be another good late game option. Or if you wind up having one drop from a timeless encounter, then that would be a good choice also. 1 minute, little girl. Anyways, I think that pretty much covers everything. I will catch you guys later. Peace.